Welcome to the second episode of the second season of OR02 Revisited. In the first episode, I told you about my dream to live in the Philippines and why it is not at all certain that I will ever make that dream come true. In this episode, I want to share with you how the Philippines changed my life. How can a country make someone a better person, you might ask? Well, in my case, it did. I was raised in a very comfortable environment. We weren't rich, but my parents made a good living. They never spoiled me by buying me everything I asked for, but I never wanted for anything. Being an only child, I never had to share my toys or compete for my parents' affection. I grew up minding my own business and focusing mainly on myself. My life, my career, my salary, my savings, my apartment, my car, you name it. It never occurred to me that not everybody was as lucky as me. Mind you, I did follow the news on television, so I knew that there were terrible things happening in the world. There were countries at war. There were people starving in Africa. There were terrible natural disasters in Asia. But none of that was really affecting me. All these things happened in countries that were so far away and that I had never visited. In those days, I still felt quite safe in Europe. I felt pity for those people who were suffering, but I didn't really feel involved. An occasional tax-deductible donation to a charity soothed my conscience. Now that's not a very flattering picture I'm painting of myself here, is it? But all that was going to change once I set foot on Philippine soil. Seeing things on television is one thing. Standing amidst poverty is another. Suddenly I was walking among homeless people who were sleeping in the park. I saw desperate parents forcing their minor children into prostitution. I saw people living in improvised houses without electricity or indoor plumbing. This was really the eye-opener I needed to go from indifferent to empathic. And that was only the beginning. When my fiancée took me to see her parents and I saw the wooden shack they were living in, it broke my heart. For the first time in my life, I felt that I had to do something for other people. I brought my fiancée to Belgium and we got married. From now on, the focus was no longer on me, myself and I, but on us. And us wasn't my wife and I. Us was my wife, her family and I. That short trip to the Philippines back in 1999 was responsible for my complete personality makeover. I asked my wife what I could do to improve the life of her family. She discussed it with them and they came up with the idea of buying a multi-cab. For those of you who are not familiar with the Philippines, a multi-cab is a small passenger van that is used for public transportation between two towns or cities. Ours would be used between Ormoc and Albuera. I couldn't live with the idea of us having a big wedding in Belgium while her family in the Philippines were having trouble making ends meet. So I kept the wedding small and sent money to the Philippines to buy a multicap. If anyone had told me 2 years earlier that I would buy a car for other people, I would have told them they were delirious. Why on earth would I buy a car for someone else? Gee, I wasn't Rockefeller. Well, I did, and it felt good. For the first time in my life, I made a major purchase for people who needed it more than I. And that would never have happened if I hadn't married a Filipina. Hey, you are still watching. Does that mean you like this video? Because if you do, why not give me a thumbs up? Or even better, subscribe if you haven't done so already. You know it is free. And if you'd like to share your thoughts or experiences, that's what the comment section is for. But please keep it constructive. And now, without further ado, I will let you continue watching. It didn't stop there. Less than 2 years after we got married, I purchased land in Ormoc. And when I had a financial windfall a year later, we started constructing a house on it. When I saw how cheap construction was in the Philippines compared to Belgium, I immediately saw it big. While a small 3-bedroom house would have been quite sufficient for her parents, her 2 kid brothers, and ourselves when we were there on vacation, I said, no, we're going to make it big enough so all your siblings can live there with their spouses and children, so nobody has to pay rent anymore. The result was a 7-bedroom mansion. Now most of you foreigners who are living in the Philippines will tell me that this was a major mistake. And I found that out the hard way. As a foreigner, I cannot own land in the Philippines. But my wife could. I loved her, I loved her family, especially the nieces and nephews, 2 of whom are my godchildren. I trusted these people, and a broken marriage was something I wasn't even prepared to contemplate. To me, marriage was a lifetime commitment. 14 years after walking down the aisle, I found myself in my attorney's office, presenting him with evidence of my wife's adultery and filing for a divorce. I learned a few lessons here. Empathy is a nice virtue, but not everyone appreciates it. My wife's whole family was aware of her sexual escapades, but never tried to talk sense into her as long as she kept the money coming. I can assure you that this would have been quite different if the shoe had been on the other foot. If I had been the one cheating my wife. My parents would have been extremely angry with me and very protective of their daughter-in-law. But then they didn't depend on me for financial support. As soon as my in-laws realized that I was no longer going to be their ATM machine, they banned me from their life, totally ignoring that I had taken them out of a wooden shack and put them in a modern mansion. My late mother-in-law would have died years earlier if I hadn't put her through some very expensive surgeries. And that's only scratching the surface. No, I certainly don't want to present myself as a victim here. Everything I did from the bottom of my heart. Nobody twisted my arm. If anyone is to blame, I should blame myself for not realizing that I was helping people who were only interested in what I could do for them, and who would forget me faster than I can spit. After divorcing my wife, I started concentrating on myself again. During the 14 years of our marriage, I never bought much for myself. Most of my budget would go to my wife, her family, and the house that I was building for them. Now that I was single again, I revamped my apartment in Belgium, bought myself a nice new car, and travelled when I felt like it. For the first time in 14 years, I started prioritizing myself again. But I would never go back to being the man I was prior to going to the Philippines. That country has changed my life forever. The things I saw there truly inspired me to self-reflect and had a permanent impact on the way I view life. I have also learned the hard way not to throw my money around and keep it closer to my chest. But the love of the country, the sympathy for the people, and the desire to help wherever I can, this time within predefined boundaries, will stay forever. I made many wrong decisions, but I needed this experience to become a better person.
I welcome all your comments below. Am I stupid? Have I been a pushover? Did I get what I deserve for being too gullible? And did the Philippines really make me a better person? Or am I only fooling myself?
If you like watching Ormoc Revisited, you may also fancy my other series, 7 Amazing Tales of the Philippines and the Expat Files. Or maybe you are more interested in my videos about Europe. You can find all of these on Homebase Belgium. Be happy, stay healthy and enjoy life.